today's landscape of easy to access and readily available and annoyingly varied streaming services, there's a place for almost every genre of cinephile. Nearly every single medium to large media corporation has their own streaming service, and it's enough to cause instant and perpetual decision paralysis. As much as I hate how pretty much every facet of entertainment I used to enjoy has been giving less and taking more, at least I can face the unraveling of everything I hold sacred from the comfort of my living room. Lately, I've been particularly nostalgic for a time just before it all turned to utter despair. When Halo 3 made us believe that Master Chief would have a fitting end to his story, and Fallout 3 was just a wacky role-playing game and not a haunting premonition of the world to come. This was a time before streaming services, in the very early days of social media, before, well, everything inherently wrong with the nature of human beings when they're allowed to interact anonymously, free of consequence. But I don't want to talk about the inescapable horror of the modern day. I just want to pick a fucking movie. Why is it so goddamn hard to enjoy myself? Video on demand. Video on demand, or VOD, was a progenitor to what we now know as streaming. It was a system that allowed viewers to access a catalog of various digital media, like TV shows or movies, from their televisions. The first commercial implementation of a VOD service actually dates back to the late 90s with Kingston Interactive TV. This service was provided by Kingston Communications and would provide broadcast television and internet access to upwards of 15,000 customers in the UK by 2001. By 2002, Disney, Paramount, Sony, Universal, MGM, 20th Century Fox, and Warner Brothers would launch the Digital Cinema Initiative, which would establish a common system architecture for all digital cinema systems. And we see how that's worked out for all of them. Well, most of them.
Monopoly Disney Edition. Magical fun for all the family.
Version 1.0 of this weirdly collaborative system would launch in 2005, and the US would be brought into the VOD space. The convenience and progressive technological attributes of this new method of seeking out entertainment were quickly embraced by the American public, and most major cable providers would soon offer some form of video-on-demand package. With this hot new technology came a hot new need for lots of hot new content to pump into the living rooms of all the hot young singles in your area. By 2006, Comcast, in cooperation with Lionsgate Entertainment and Sony Pictures Entertainment, would launch a new VOD service specifically for one of the most bankable categories of entertainment in history:
the horror genre.
This horror-centric service was called Fearnet. Now, I'm going to drop the history lesson from this point because it doesn't matter, and I just want to reminisce on the magical world of pre-age verification digital media access. And this is really just about me. In the summer of 2008, when I was a wee lad of 14, no higher than my knee, I was fully committed to two things: playing Grand Theft Auto 4 and trying to see boobs on TV. Okay, I'm going to take the fucking cape off. Cape is too much. In between multi-day sessions of GTA, I would sit on the couch and flick through the options on offer from our newly acquired Comcast on-demand service. This is where I learned about things like Spike TV, VH1, MTV2, and G4. And one day, I noticed an entirely separate service that was included. A service called Fearnet On Demand. It looked edgy in all the ways that you would expect would appeal to a 14-year-old in the early 2000s, like if Hot Topic had moved into broadcast television. In its later years, it would go on to produce its own original content, like TV shows and movies, even having its own linear broadcast channel in 2010. But in 2008, I mostly used it as a way to watch movies I had no other way of accessing. And, of course, because scary movies have boobs in them sometimes. I used to spend entire workdays just fast-forwarding through horror movies I'd never heard of to see if the ill-fated horny teenagers would cough up the goods before they coughed up their guts. If it wasn't for my hormones, I wouldn't have discovered some of my favorite horror movies of all time, along with countless honorable mentions. Fearnet was where I first watched movies like The Descent and Hostel, and one of my personal favorites, Dog Soldiers. And all because I had never really had unrestricted access to this genre before. Horror is a compelling genre to tell countless stories within, and it even opened my eyes to the subtext of what these stories offer. I remember watching Ginger Snaps and thinking, Wow, I had no idea that going through puberty could be so difficult and confusing for young women.
Are you sure it's just cramps? Just so you know, the words just and cramps, they don't go together.
And also, she's a real bitch when she's on her period. Fearnet is also one of the reasons I became so fascinated in the process of filmmaking. A lot of the movies on the service would play behind-the-scenes featurettes after the show, like the kind you would find on DVD bonus features. These usually consisted of interviews with the cast and directors, but this was from a time before all that stuff was scripted and packaged in a way that made the studio look boring and perfect. The actors were allowed to be awkward, and the directors were allowed to be just tired and cynical.
Oh, this one's a musical. Yeah. They keep saying, does Michael Myers talk? And I go, no, he does not talk, but he does sing.
Okay, good.
And it all made it feel so tangible. Like you actually got to see what it was like for these people to work on this movie. Now, I had loved DVD bonus features for years, even by this point. But the one thing that always attracted me to these bonus videos was how much fun everyone seemed to be having while making something that's supposed to be scary or disgusting. It felt like they got to live in the Halloween season full time. Between the set design, props, costumes, and general vibe of producing a movie, they basically had their own little private Halloween haunt. If all that wasn't enough, Fearnet wasn't just about horror movies. It promoted horror games as well. I still haven't played Obscure yet, but man, were they selling that game hard. Every few minutes on the main menu there would be another special look or trailer for this game that I hadn't seen talked about anywhere else. For a long time I thought Obscure was actually produced entirely, or at least in part, by Fearnet, or whoever owned it. But no, it was actually just some French developer. Ugh. But Fearnet's coverage of this eponymously named obscure survival horror game was so thorough, I can still tell you what the premise is and what the major mechanics are, and I still haven't even met someone who's played it. I remember it being about a group of high school teenagers, I believe, maybe college students, but it was students, probably high school students, because that's the trope of horror, right? And you play as different characters throughout the game, and each character could either die or like go insane or something throughout the course of the game, and then you would switch to whoever else was in that story with them, and those decisions would carry up. See, I remember more about this game than I would like to because I've never once touched it, and I don't think I've seen it since the late 2000s. Anyway, I don't have much else to say about Fearnet. It officially ceased operations in 2014, and even the website doesn't exist anymore. The only remnant I can find is a channel here on YouTube, and their last upload was a decade ago. But if you're a fan of horror and you've never heard of this, go check out some of what's left. There's some of their original interviews and short form content, which makes it feel like a weird little glimpse into a niche time capsule when big studios were still experimenting with the medium of digital media. I'm Jarrett Harris. Thank you for watching, and happy Halloween.
Do you want me to go? Because I feel like this kind of looks pretty cool. And then I could add a contour.
I don't want it to look too cool. I want it to look kind of dumb.
If you want it to look dumb, I think we're going to have to go with the white face paint.
Then probably we'll do the face paint because that'll be funny.